Morning, year seven. Happy new half term. Hope you had a really lovely week. The weather was beautiful, so I hope everyone managed to get outside and go for a cycle or this, that, and the other, and really make the most of it. I hope no one did any work. I hope you took a really good opportunity just to sit and just relax and just rest and recuperate, ready to start again. So I hope you all had a good half term. But now we've got about six and a half more weeks left. Let's keep going and making sure we end the term in the best possible way. Right, so it's Wednesday morning. It's time for you just to do a bit of five senses. So again, you know the drill. I'll give you about 10 seconds just to yourself to notice the five things you can see, four things you can feel, three things you can hear, two you can smell, and one you can taste. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds just to do that, guys. Really nice, easy way of being mindful. Off you go. Okay, right, let's get started. So, theme of the week this week is forgiveness. Now, as I always do, I give you two definitions about what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is two definitions I found uh, a release of resentment or anger, or freeing someone from guilt for something they have done wrong. Two different sides and two different ways of looking at it, but I think two equally important ways. So it's you not being so angry if someone has upset you, and it's also allowing that person who's upset you to get over that guilt, to move on from it, and to hopefully, to become a much better person. So forgiveness, I think, has two different parts. One for you being not so angry anymore and letting that go, and then on the other side of it, forgiveness is important for the other person because they can stop feeling guilty from it or sad or embarrassed for whatever they've done and allows them to move on. So let's get into it. This is a picture of a young man called Anthony Walker. This story is quite an old one, but it's one that I think about a lot actually whenever I'm talking about forgiveness. He was 18 years old. He was from Liverpool. He had a sister and a mum. He was a really good lad, loved basketball, loved helping out the young kids in the community. But one day he was murdered. It was racially motivated, and he was killed by two people who went to his school. He was attacked, so you can imagine the difficulty of it. He was attacked with an ice pick, so it would have been a particularly gruesome, vicious, horrible, unjustified attack just for being who he was and where he was. 18 years old, so obviously you can imagine he's right at the start of his life. Essentially, he's got so much to look forward to, and it's all taken away from him and his family. He's taken away from his family, in a few short minutes. And I think about this story a lot actually. And you can there's a link to a video at the bottom there, which I think goes into more detail about this story. But I've picked out two of the two really important things from it. So at the time there was this massive, massive media attention on this young man and his family, and they were fascinated to see how they would react. Um, his family and he himself were Christian and they had Christian values just like we do as a school. And his sister was asked by a member of the press, "Could you forgive your brother's killers?" And in the video, you can watch it yourself. She thinks about it and she pauses, and for her, it feels like a long time, but it must have been 5 or 6 seconds. And she says, "Jesus told his disciples to forgive 77 times 7." Now, excuse me, that's what Jesus is saying here. He's not literally saying you have to forgive someone 77 times 7. He's saying that you should always, always be prepared to forgive. And his mum, I think, also was puts it beautifully. She, in the video, describes not forgiving someone as packing anger and resentment and hatred and bitterness, excuse me, into a bag and carrying that bag around with you. So if someone has hurt you or a member of your family, you are hurting yourself. It's a really horrible, this is a really horrible situation. So why on earth would you want to make that worse for yourself? This is her point. Why on earth would you want to make that worse for yourself by carrying around all this heaviness and all this hatred and bitterness? She chose to forgive her son's killers because it freed her of that feeling of just bitterness and anger. and anger, and it made her feel like a much freer person. It's an amazing story. I do encourage you to have a look at that bite-sized clip at the bottom. The second thing I think about when I think about forgiveness is this short little Bible reference from Luke 23:34. You can see from the picture that Jesus is on the cross, and he says, at the very point where he's on the cross, bearing in mind what we've already talked about a little bit at the start of, well, in the spring term, we talked about the suffering that Jesus went through, that he was spat at, he was mocked, he was abused, he was stabbed, he was, nailed to the cross. All sorts of horrible things happened to him. He was abused, he was tortured, everything. And this quote for me, I think, is so important, and really what it is to be, for me, a Christian, and for me to be at a Christian school, a Christian value school, I should say. He says, Jesus says, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Jesus has been abused, tortured, crucified, spat at, mocked, stripped of all of his clothes, embarrassed, and he's still asking God, he's still saying, actually, I forgive these people. I forgive these people. So I look at these two people, Jesus and G. Walker there, that's Anthony's mum, and I think, what do they have in common? They both have had the most horrendous things done to them, either to themselves or to, or to their son or to their child. And I think, yeah, okay, they've got that in common. But the most important thing is that they forgave people. And I think, for me as a Christian, the best thing about this story, the most powerful thing of this story, is that they're both human. Jesus, as a human, was able to forgive those people who had done the most horrendous things to him. G. Walker, as a mother, as a human, was able to forgive her son's killers. They're both human. I'm a human. I can learn a lesson from these. You're human. You can learn a lesson for these. And when I think about forgiveness, I often think about, well, an eye for an eye. I've had several conversations this year with people in the year group that said, "Oh, I sent this person a nasty message because they sent me one, or I was mean to this person because they were mean to me, or I hit this person because they hit me." And it's going for that eye for an eye sort of approach, which might be satisfying at the time, but actually, if Mahatma Gandhi really takes that quote and puts it on its head, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So if we're not forgiving people and we're seeking revenge, if you're hurting someone because they've hurt you, or if they're being mean, so you're going to be mean back to them, it's only going to cause more problems. And Jesus himself addresses this quote when it says, "If someone slaps you across the cheek, turn the other one." He's saying it's better to forgive than to cause more damage. Now I know for a fact that people, these conversations where someone has done this, so I'm going to do that. I know that's happened in this year group, and I know, and those people who are involved have seen what's happened. But I also know on the other side of that, there are loads of people in this year group who have forgiven others for maybe accidentally doing the wrong thing, or accidentally leaving them out, or accidentally being unkind to them. And I know those people feel so much more satisfied when they say, actually, I know that was a mistake. I know you didn't mean it. Let's move on from it, rather than those people who try to carry it on. So I don't know what it's like on your WhatsApp chats at the minute, but I know that at some point people would have been horrible to you, or you would have been horrible to them. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So if you think about forgiveness, if you think about letting it go, you know that that is going to end up in a much better situation. Now, we're getting towards the end. I'm sort of going off on one of it today, but I do think forgiveness is so important. So why would anyone forgive? Well, it builds better relationships. When someone is sorry, they're showing you everything. They're showing you their heart and their soul, and how vulnerable they are, and how sorry they are, and their guilt. They are offering themselves to you. That shows real strength, and that shows real humility and what it is to be a good person. But when you forgive someone, you, you know you're showing your love and your mercy. You're saying, I accept what you've done and what's happened, and I appreciate that you are really, really sorry. And again, going back to what G. Walker said, Anthony's mum, that when you forgive someone, all of that bitterness, anger, hatred, resentment, whatever words you want to use, goes. It goes. and it's a lot harder living with grudges than without them. I often think about how exhausting it is for people to hold grudges when you can just forgive them. You might not like them, they might not be your best mates, whatever. But if you can forgive them, give them a clean slate, your life's just so much easier. It's so much easier. And again, this one I think is quite important. There's a parable in the Bible that I think we looked at in class. If you forgive others, others will forgive you. I, for one, know that I make mistakes. I can be unkind to people. I can be nasty to people. I don't mean to, but I would want to be forgiven. And if someone was unkind to me, they'd want forgiveness, and I'd want to forgive them in case that in the future I need to be forgiven. We all make mistakes, but if you forgive others, others are going to forgive you. Right. Just a few more reflections on this just before we go. So, when have people asked you for forgiveness, and how did you react? Who am I angry at, and is it worth it? How do I need to ask forgiveness for? Who do I need to ask forgiveness for? And am I truly sorry? I think that's a really important one. When you offer forgiveness or when you ask for forgiveness, you have to be truly sorry. If you're not truly sorry, and if you just go, "Oh yeah, sorry about that," you're not ready for forgiveness, and you're not ready to understand, and you haven't understood what situation you may have done or how you might have upset someone. And then how can I show that you're truly sorry? So forgiveness is very important, and obviously the person doing forgiving is amazing, but you need to make sure that you are showing them that you're ready for that forgiveness. Right, last thing for me then, guys. Just a bit of admin, just a few notices to go through. Your parents or whoever's at home would have been sent this. This is your new timetable that you need to be working from. You can see that there are no times in the day, so it's totally up to you how you do it. But I'm going to reiterate that there are 3 hours on there. So you need to do, so on Wednesday today, you need to be doing an hour of English, an hour of maths, and an hour of history. Doesn't matter when you do that. You could do that at 1, 2, or 3 in the afternoon. You could do it at 9, 10, 11. It's totally up to you. You have to be flexible on what works with you, but everyone is expected to be doing 3 hours a day. I'd also like to point you to Friday in that third hour. That's your catch-up time. So you know that if you've done an hour of RE and you've not finished it, and you would like to, use that time on Friday to catch up. Okay, so please, everyone needs to be sticking to that. Um, that's the best way of working it. Okay, and you can see there's 2 bullet points there. Students should complete 3 hours of study per day and lessons in the form of PowerPoint with teacher voiceovers. So everyone's got mine. Will be uploaded onto Show My Homework the afternoon before the timetabled lessons. So you know that if you want to get a head start on languages today, it'll be on there at 2:30, 3:30 at some point this afternoon. So you've got plenty of time to look ahead and see what's happening. Now, focus only now on the work that's being set on Show My Homework. Don't worry about the stuff before Easter unless it was a project that was given a deadline for this week. We only have 6.5 more weeks left of term or left of year 7. Keep working hard. I know it's difficult and I know it's really challenging with this weird situation we're in, but it doesn't stop. Work doesn't stop. Being a Chertsey High student doesn't stop. Keep working hard. Make sure you watch Mrs. Goldborn's assembly on Teams. She's raised so many different points that I haven't done, and it is a really beautiful thing. Do go and have a look at that, and loads of things to think about there. And a few weeks ago before half term, I emailed loads of survey questions out. 4 questions about what it's been like for you in year 7. That is in aim of helping the year 6s who are going to be coming up in September. The school's making them a nice booklet. So anyone who uses any quotes that get used will win 15 house points for their tutor in their house. That will go to a prize at the end of the year. So that's it for me this week. I hope you guys are all okay. Again, just a reminder, if you need anything or if you're worried about anything, do speak to your tutors or myself or any class teacher. We love you. We miss you. Keep safe, keep positive, keep working hard. Thanks, guys. Bye.